Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inclusively You podcast, a space dedicated to amplifying the voices and highlighting persons with disabilities and those who support the community as well. I'm your host, Kayan Vaz. Happy Financial Literacy Month. We have some amazing guests who will be joining us for the entire month of April. They will be sharing valuable insights on how to generate wealth, as well as discussing investment options available for persons with disabilities. We have so much in store for you. Please remember to follow us on our Instagram page, Inclusively You Podcast. And remember to follow us and subscribe. We are on various streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, and yes, Podcast Index. Or just simply email us at inclusivelyu@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, so you can definitely share your stories with us. So excited to kickstart the Financial Literacy Month series with you. And our very special guest today is someone who I have the utmost respect for. She's one of the most influential and powerful women in the finance sector. She is a seasoned financial coach with nearly 20 years of experience in the financial industry and possesses an impressive array of qualifications and awards. Since 2003, she has been an active member of the Jamaica Stock Exchange Market Research Committee, and since 2018, she has served on the board of the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange. In 2014, she embarked on a mission to help private clients enhance their financial well-being, aiming for a 1% monthly increase in their net worth through her platform, www.financiallyfocusedmedia.com. She previously hosted the TV show Financially Focused, which transitioned into a YouTube channel offering insights on investing and debt management. The show was previously broadcasted on Power 106 Radio in Jamaica from 2017 to 2019 and aired on various networks from 2013 to 2017. Prior to this, from 2012 to 2013, she also hosted TVJ's Daily Dollar program. She holds several advanced degrees and certificates, including a postgraduate degree in journalism management and a postgraduate diploma in banking and monetary management from the University of Shanghai in 2019 and 2018, respectively. In 2008, she received a master's in business with a specialization in banking and finance from the University of the West Indies Mona School of Business and Management. She's also been an active JDSF member, that's the Jamaica Down Syndrome Foundation, since 2011, serving on its board and advocating for the rights and the needs of the Down syndrome community. She raises awareness, participates in events, and supports and empowers those affected by Down syndrome. Her work has made a significant impact and serves as an inspiration to others. Inclusively, you listeners, please help me welcome Miss Dennise Williams. Hi, Dennise.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Inclusively You. I just want to kickstart the conversation just asking about what attracted you first of all, to the finance sector, and what exactly was your objective or career goals while you were pursuing this field of study?
Okay. Well, what was the attraction was really my family. I came from a family of persons who really struggled financially. Um, both my parents were from the inner city, and my father luckily had gotten a job as a bearer in his youth for some attorneys.
Mhm.
And as a bearer for the attorneys, he saw persons, buying and selling real estate, doing stuff. And so he talked to me about that experience. But in terms of everyone else, the understanding of how to manage money, how to grow money, how to keep money was not there. It was very hand to mouth. And I was always curious, why was that? Why was people who didn't look like me were doing so well financially, and then the people around me who looked like me were doing so badly, just
Right.
abysmally, not even badly, abysmally, and it was just one disaster and one crisis to the next, and to the point of people being homeless, people even migrating to the US. It didn't make a difference. You didn't migrate to the US and you were just like immediately financially better off. People were being evicted and people lost property, and it was just disaster, financial disaster after the other, even though you migrated.
Right.
And so it just was the most curious thing to me as to why, what is this?
Yeah.
What was missing that you are literally living in the same financial crisis that you are living in Jamaica, and you're living in England, or you're living in the United States? What is that?
So
And
you
so
so you basically wanted to bridge that gap as it
right.
relates to your curiosity, of course, was
Yeah.
piqued.
Yeah.
From your experience, Dennise, would you say is it the mindset of a person in terms of how they can access wealth, or is it access to information, or is it both, a combination of both?
Absolutely a combination of both. I think what we have in my experience, I'm going to only talk about my experience. What you have is very powerful people, very dedicated, very committed people who have poor information. And so the strength and the power is put in to places that there's no profit, there's no growth. And so they're working very, very hard, working very long hours, putting in their absolute best, and then have nothing to show for it. And that creates, as persons, as you get older, that creates such an inner space of anger that it becomes difficult for you to learn, because you're so angry and you're so tired, you know. And had there been, I see in where someone gets mentorship in their 20s or even their 30s and even 40s, and they either get mentorship or they make up their mind and pay for coaching. One of the two. One of the two happens. So, and their life blossoms. It becomes incredible because whether through mentorship or paid coaching, they have another pair of eyes, another brain, another set of hands that are working with them to grow their life. It
Right.
is the most amazing transformation to witness.
Yes. And it's funny that you should mention that, because for persons who, well, I'm going to speak for myself. I didn't have conversations about finances in my home.
Right.
It was always, we're going to get by.
Correct.
We're going to make it this month. We're going to pray about it, one,
Mm.
because, and my parents did the best they could, because again, it's
Yes.
what they learned.
Right.
My mom did her utmost best in saying, remember, every mickle, mickle, muckle, but the conversations, they were never intentional.
Right.
And I, as I got older, I realized how important having that financial education in how you spend your money, how you invest,
Correct.
as well as how you use your time to make
Yes.
money, pretty much was never the conversation. Do you think it's a cultural thing as a people where we somehow, we're an island and everybody know everybody, and somebody have to help you all the time, but not really having those intentional conversations about finances?
I don't think a it's just an island. I think it's global. I think the problem is global.
Mm.
But what I would say is unique about our situation is the I think we don't trust each other.
Ah.
And the lack of trust means the lack of sharing, you see. And the lack of trust also means the control. I think we have a society that control is very important. And when you don't have all the information, or when you don't have enough information, that creates a dependency. And I think we are in our relationships, whether work or school or any formal arrangement, there needs to be somebody needs to be in control and somebody needs to be dependent. And so, because there's such a strong need for control, it means I'm going to hold on to information. When I tell my son that, listen, financial planning is very simple in your 20s, because the things that are very cheap become extremely expensive after the age of 40. So insurance, yeah, savings and investing, you can put down such small sums, 20 US, 50 US in your 20s, that blossom into millions when you're in your 60s,
Mm.
right? That's the time you're partying and wasting your resources. But the things that are extremely expensive in your 20s, like buying a house, doing a business, you don't have any guidance on that, because if you did it and struggled, quote unquote, struggled in your 20s and 30s to get a house, to get a business, it becomes so cheap in your 50s and 60s, because now your mortgage is probably gone. You have 30 years of business experience, so you know how to handle business and deal with people and do sales. So so that's the thing about in your 20s. What's cheap becomes expensive after 40, and what's
Right.
expensive at 20 becomes cheap after 40. The challenge though is, if somebody gets that kind of support in their 20s, they're a difficult person to control,
Mm.
because they are self-determined. They know what they want. They know how to get it. So if they come into your workplace, they're just coming because they want to, not because you are holding a stick over them and you could threaten to fire them.
Right.
You know
Uh, you
that
know,
that would disturb society. That would be too much for society to cope with. That's my opinion.
Very good points. And as we're on the topic about access to information and being informed, we are really, I don't know how persons with disabilities
Mm,
feel in terms of them not having access to almost anything.
right.
you know um I know that you have a son that has
Hmm.
Down syndrome, and you've been
Yes.
advocating and fighting for years for persons to understand this particular disability. But as a parent, when you first heard or knew that, listen, my child has a disability, was it, I'm gonna have to go into survival mode, or was it, no, I have to use this opportunity to change the game?
Okay. So I remember when I got the diet, when the nurse looked and said, "Oh, you see how the lines in the middle of his hand are, and you see this," and she was showing me the markers on his body. She said, "This is Down syndrome." I Like a truck hit me. I didn't know what. I knew nothing about Down syndrome. So if she said he was gonna be dead tomorrow, then I would be like, okay, because it was the same feeling. Um, and when I reached out, persons told me, just leave him in the hospital, walk away. You don't need that stress. There's zero help for you in Jamaica. You're not gonna get any support, so just leave. Just go on. And and then other people said, "Oh, the nurse doesn't know what she's saying. The nurse is incompetent. The lie she'll tell. The baby look fine. Lie. It's like what?" And it was that, so I'm getting two different, both of them were not based in the medical reality I was looking at, but both groups were very commit. Oh, and the third group was, "I'm gonna call my pastor and he's gonna give you a strong prayer," So those were the three immediate, you know, three messages I got on day one after the nurse showed me, and I was frozen. I was really frozen. And then the nurses and the doctors, they came and they told me about the condition and some of the things to what was the hole in his heart and the different things. And I actually felt better getting the medical aspect of it because that actually sounded like sense. The rest
Right.
sounded stupid, to be very honest with you, and this sounded like sense. So here is what's wrong with his heart. Okay, here is the situation with his lungs. Here is the situation with whatever, his skin, his muscles. Having the diagnosis broke down to me gave me a better sense of what I'm coping with. Okay. And I look at it as to say, this is a challenge to me because based on the people I was around, and I realized that if I don't strengthen myself, then there's nobody to help this child.
So let me just interject here. How did that affect you financially? Because there's no
Oh
playbook at
God.
this time. There's no playbook at this time. You going
No, no, no,
around
no. However,
getting,
no. Well,
yeah.
what I knew? Well, first of all, what I knew was I knew that I immediately needed insurance. That was the first financial plan that came to my mind because I figured I'm going to spend my time in and out of the hospital. So I needed to get insurance. So I think that was the first financial decision I made. And I had a son. I had an older son. So I said, you know what, I'm going to get insurance for both my children. So that was the first financial decision I made. What I didn't have at the time, what I didn't know was I needed support. I needed emotional support. I didn't have that. I needed career guidance. Didn't have that. I needed the support that I needed outside of insurance agent didn't exist. And I wasn't articulate enough to know that I needed certain help. I did end up on antidepressant medication because I was married at the time, and it was a very typical situation where it was like when I was reading the research on what happens in marriages when a child has a disability, like, oh my God, you people are in my house. It was a very depressing time, very depressed, and I needed medication to cope. It was incredibly hard emotionally. Emotionally, it was incredibly hard. I had situations where relatives wouldn't touch my child. They didn't want to touch a child with a disability. I had challenges convincing my spouse about therapy, that therapy was needed and you should spend money for therapy. That's the other challenge, in that a lot of people think everything should be free, but what is free is not necessarily the best for your child. But on the other hand, a lot of the people who I was paying, I wasn't satisfied with the service. So there was also that. So when I would say to you I would say the first 6 years was the worst for me.
Wars. The
It
first
was the
six
worst
months.
for me in terms of my marriage, my career, my emotions. I was extremely depressed. It was the worst
So we're
because
just
the support wasn't there. Yeah.
right. And you were in corporate Jamaica at the
Oh
time.
my God, I was in corporate Jamaica, of which is a very competitive place,
Mm,
which is very much based on how good you look, what car you drive. It's very superficial.
mm-hmm,
And I dropped the ball constantly, constantly. I was sleep deprived because he had sleep apnea, and he stopped breathing in the middle of the night, and his face was too small for the CPAP machine that you need to prevent sleep. You basically dying in your sleep. And so I'm so paranoid, and I'm sleeping with one eye open. And so I go to work the next day, and I just this,
yeah.
sign documents that I shouldn't sign. you
Wow.
know and it, as I said, it was horrible. The word is horrible. There
Yeah.
was no support, and people are unkind.
Mm-hmm.
People are very unkind. And then I think a lot of times, as for me, the experience triggered my people pleasing, self-sabotaging behaviors. I was trying to make everybody happy at work, at church, at home, at family members, trying to make everybody happy. And then one day I was carrying him, and I felt my knees gonna go. I just knew I was gonna fall. And I had to let him go strategically so he didn't get injured, right? Because he wasn't walking properly. And I said, I've got to. So I ended up throwing him on the hood of the car so I could fall.
Mm.
You see, and it happened in slow motion.
And just
And yeah,
yeah, I'm listening to you, and it's almost as if I'm reliving the experiences
yeah,
with you
yeah,
right
man,
now.
yeah, it was
Um, so
horrible.
as it relates to the transition,
Hmm.
just briefly touch on how that conversation came about where you said, all right, I am not serving you in this space in corporate.
Yes,
I have my
right.
son that I need to think about who has a
Oh no, no, no! It wasn't. Oh gosh, you're making me sound brilliant. No, darling, I was let go. I
oh
was
my
let go.
gosh.
I was made
Stop it.
redundant in Christmas.
Oh,
Okay, it was
okay.
Christmas, and I got a letter to say your post is no longer needed. Okay, and so it
Oh my
wasn't so brilliant.
goodness.
And it was a little bit like 2 weeks after I had the fall, and I was like, okay. I was like, my children are gonna starve. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It was like just the worst. And it's so funny. God has plans for you. And it let me tell you, I want to say, instead of dwelling in the horribleness of it, I want to say I eventually got help. I got counseling. I, as a financial coach, got financial coaching, and I got counseling. I paid for it. It took my redundancy money, and I paid for it. And the in between 2015 and 2019, that 4-year period is when I invested, paid my money for coaching and counseling. Okay, and it saved my life, and it saved the life of my children, and it enabled me to sit here and be able to help other people, be able to pay it forward. Because let me tell you, it is priceless having sensible, intelligent people in your life that you pay for, so they give you their best because you're paying them for it.
Yes.
Having people like that in your life is priceless. Whatever you pay them is nothing compared to what you get for the next 20, 30 years. You'll make more money. You will have better conversations. Your body will feel better. You will sleep better at night. You will eat better in the day. Okay? I mean, there is the return on investment in paying sensible people to guide you and to mentor you it's the return on investment is incalculable. Incalculable.
And I
There are,
believe that
oh my
that
God.
investment paid off because
Oh
no,
yes.
Denzel is no what, 12, 13,
13,
13,
13, and he
and
signed the other day.
yeah, wow. And
Yeah,
just to see him thriving,
yes.
pretty much where others thought, hey,
Yeah.
he had no future.
He's an
Um,
artist, he's a dancer, he is not literate, but he is very intelligent and he has, I mean, listen to me. I am so proud of my son. So proud. So
A-
proud.
And how are you planning in terms of, because it's I know it's going to be different
Mm,
because it's so wide as when we talk about
yes.
financial preparation for persons with disabilities, but
Yes.
for parents or a parent who may be listening at this time, can you share with us just a few tips
Absolutely.
on how can you prepare for a child with disability who is
Abs-
actually thriving and growing,
Absolutely.
who is not dead because a lot of doctors misdiagnose
Oh
and
God.
say they're not going to live to see a certain age. That's what happened with the
Right.
cerebral palsy community.
Right.
So share with us like a few tips on how
Sure.
parents or parent can prepare for their
Sure.
child with a disability.
Sure. So we're gonna start is looking at your financial table. So you know, the table has to have four legs. So the first thing is the parent has to set their own table and then set the financial table for their child. So the basics are the same. Number one is your income. You must upskill. Consider every 2 years to get new training. You must upskill so that you can earn more. Okay? It's not negotiable, it's not an option. For you to say my salary is the same is because I haven't upskilled. Okay, and the company is taking advantage of that. Let me just be plain and simple. You need to upskill every 2 years. So your first financial leg is your income, and you need to find different sources of income. That happens as you upskill. It becomes easier to have other sources of income. The second leg is protection. That falls under managing your debt and getting insurance. If you're overly in debt, you need to work through that because that means there's no money extra for anything else. But the leg of protection is debt plus insurance because insurance says when you are old, when you have a challenge, you now have a check to collect. The third leg is your long-term investments. Even if it is 1,000 Jamaican dollars, 20 US dollars, you need to put something away every month. The fourth and final leg is your long-term goals. What is it that you want? Are you going to be an old lady sitting in the beach in the grill? Okay, let's plan backwards for that. So that is your financial table. You need to set that for yourself as a parent. Now, with the child that has the disability, you're actually, you know, you have your knife and fork and plates on top of the table. Counseling is a must. There must be a counselor in your life. And there must be a counselor that understands disabilities. Okay?
Mhm.
That is your knife and fork and plate and dish and thing on top of the table. You must have counseling. You, the parent, need counseling, the child needs counseling. You must. Okay? It's not, I haven't seen where the coach doesn't exist and the people are doing well. You need a coach. That's just my professional opinion. Then, with the financial table for your child, I still say the first leg is income. Figure out what that child can do. Can they paint? Can they bake? Can they do customer service? Figure it out. It's going to be harder to get work for your child unless you have your own business. But still figure out how the child, because that gives you something to work towards. Secondly, well, more than likely the child's not going to have debt, but they need insurance. They need that protection. So that's your second leg for the child. The third financial leg for your table is long-term investment. Same deal. $1,020, put something away for that child. Because the medical care now means they're gonna live till 60, 70. So every mickle make a muckle on that third leg of long-term investment. And then the fourth leg of long-term goals. Well, if you want to retire on the beach in the grill when you are 65, that child coming with you. So what does that mean? What kind of social support is in the grill for an adult with disabilities? There may be none. You may have to create that community or maybe online or whatever. So you have to consider that long-term goal for your child. And so that's how I would tell you in the quickest way possible.
Thank you so much, Dennise. We could go all day on
Yes.
this actual topic, but I
Yeah.
really want to say, thank you so much for being so transparent, so open and sharing your journey in terms of, parenting a child with a disability, as well as just sharing overall in how we can be financially empowered so we can be better able to support those around us, because that's what truly matters at the end of the day. So was just want to say thanks again. And for our listeners who would like to reach you, would like to have a conversation with you, can you just share your information? I'll be dropping it in the actual podcast description box, but and
Sure.
on our social media page. But can you just share with our listeners where we can find you?
Absolutely. It's www.financiallyfocusedmedia.com. And when you go on there, you'll see a pop up for a free 30-day financial independence course. So please sign up for that. And you can also reach out to me, 876-824-7712. And that's WhatsApp.
All right. There you have it, folks. Please, we're giving you access to information so you can feel living empowered for this uh, literacy month that we're celebrating in in April. Remember, the conversation continues. We have some amazing persons lined up for you for this month, and we just want to ensure that you share the episodes, download the episodes as well, so individuals within the community can have access to this valuable information. That's where we leave you for today's Inclusively You podcast. Remember, we are on Spotify, Google Podcasts as well. Thank you so much for being with us today. And until next time, I am your host, Keon Vaz.